Okay, so here we are, a brand new Mishnah. We finished the parak of Na'amarasa, and now we're on to the parak of NEDARIM. And when you're learning a Mishnah, what's crucial and what's necessary is an approach. One of the biggest gifts a person can have is a protocol whereby they know if they fulfill the steps required of them, they will be able to achieve a certain desired result. And when we think about learning the Mishnah, it's exactly the same. There's a protocol of how you should learn a Mishnah. And this protocol is stated openly in the Rishonim, reinforced in the Achronim. What do you do when you say Mishnah? And also remember why Mishnahs were written in the particular way they were written, that a Mishnah is not a readable text. It's a cryptic piece of text that needs to be unraveled. It's a tip of a Torah iceberg that only after careful analysis, discussion, comparison, delving into can it be properly understood. And therefore, we as students need to respect that. And I suppose it would be disrespectful to a Mishnah if we simply read it through and did nothing more than that. So what is the strategy of approach? First of all, when seeing the Mishnah for the first time, it's recommended, this is what the Sfarim say, read it through. Now, whether you're familiar with Hebrew or unfamiliar, as long as you have a basic sense of the language, you're okay. You read it through. How many times should you read it through? 4 times. Read it through 4 times. In what kind of voice should you read it through? In a clear voice with a little bit of simcha, put the emotion into it. And when you read through the Mishnah for the first time, don't worry about over-focusing on, do I understand every single word? It's not about that. It's about getting a flow of the text. What will happen is you'll see for yourself that every time you read it in those first 4 readings, something will shift, something will change, and your level of understanding will get deeper. Some connection that you never initially saw, you'll suddenly make. And the reason is because we know much more than we know. There's enormous amounts of information that we have buried underneath our conscious mind, waiting to be awoken. And this is a way to do it. So this is how I'd read this Mishnah. And I'm assuming I've never seen this Mishnah before, assuming. And I have no understanding, no context, and I just want to dive into it. Ve'elu NEDARIM shumeifir dvarim sheyesh bohen Inui Nefesh. And I'm enunciating each word, because if I say it in a loud and clear voice, I have to make commitment to punctuation. Whereas if I mumble it, so then I can get away with fuddling, falling into the trap and the mists of vagueness and being vanquished instead of vanquishing it. Ve'elu NEDARIM shehu meifir dvarim sheyesh bohen Inui Nefesh. Im erchatz ve'im lo erchatz, im iskashet ve'im lo iskashet. Amar b'yosi, ein elu nidrei inui nefesh, ve'elu hein nidrei inui nefesh. Amra, koinam peiros ha'olam olai. Hari zeh yochel lehafer. Peiros medina zu olai, Yovi lo mi medino acheres. Peiros kenvani ze olai, einu yochel lehafer. Ve'im lo hoisa parnasasoi elo mimenu, hare ze yofer. Divrei Rabbi Yosi. So my reading wasn't perfect. Maybe a stumble here and a stumble there, not quite sure where to put a comma, not quite sure where the sentence finishes. But I've got a sense of what's going on in the Mishnah. And once I've done that, and I've gone through the Mishnah, I've read it through 4 times in a loud and clear voice, then I can go to the next stage, which is a literal translation of the Mishnah, making sure that there's an exactitude in the way that I've understood the Mishnah. And again, this stage is not necessarily in order for me to have complete and total understanding. It's just to build up the backbone of what I need to do in order to understand the Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, Ve'elu NEDARIM shehu meifir. Ve'elu, and these. Ve'elu, and these. NEDARIM, the oaths, shehu meifir, that he annuls. Dvarim sheyesh bohen Inui Nefesh. Things that have in them an affliction of the self. Now, as I'm translating this, I have no idea what it's talking about. I don't know why it says ve'elu and these. It seems to be a conjunction. What is it connected to? I don't know who is the shehu meifir. Is it the father and the husband? Is it only the husband? And what does it mean, dvarim sheyesh bo Inui Nefesh? Matters that have in them some kind of affliction of the self. What kind of affliction are we referring to? What does the word Inui mean? What does the word Nefesh mean? I don't know what any of those things mean, but I'm just doing the literal translation, and I keep on going. Im erchatz, if I will wash. V'im lo erchatz, and if I will not wash. Im eskashet, if I will put on jewelry, makeup. V'im lo eskashet, and if I will not put on jewelry and makeup. Now, I'm assuming that the person over here speaking, this seems to be the language of the neder, and the person speaking is at least the wife of this man. And something about washing and not washing has got to do with Inui Nefesh. I'm, at this point in time, extremely confused. I've read through the Mishnah, I'm translating it accurately, but I don't yet have a clue as to what it's talking about. I just keep on going because I'm at the translation stage right now. So I turn over the page and it says, Amar Rabbi Yossi. Says Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi is another Tana in the Mishnah, and he's going to be coming to argue on the Tana Kama. And he says, Ein elu nidrei Inui Nefesh. No, I don't agree with you, Tana Kama. Those are not NEDARIM of affliction of self. The Eluhain Nidrei Inui Nefesh. These are, the following, in other words, are going to be the category of Nidrei Inui Nefesh. And what are they? Amra. She says, koinam. Now the word koinam, without a context, this is a word that you'll stumble on. Because koinam is not just a word that you can translate. It carries with it an entire body of information. So perhaps at koinam, if I'm reading this through for the first time and I have no idea what koinam is, and I get bewildered by it, so it may be worthwhile actually to get more background. So let's try to do that right now. So koinam, what is a koinam? What is a koinam? A koinam, as we know, is a substitute language for the word korban, which means offering. And this was a kinui, or a nickname for korban that was used prolifically throughout throughout Eretz Israel and Bavel, where the spoken tongue wasn't necessarily Hebrew, it was more Aramaic. And this distortion is the accepted version of when a person would like to make a neder, and he would like to describe the way that this is forbidden to him, and he says, or she says, this is forbidden to me like a korban. In this context, this woman is saying, Amra, she says, koinam, like a korban, peiros ha'olam, the fruit of the world, alai, are upon me, meaning the entire world's fruit, the entire produce of the planet Earth, alai, is to me like a korban, which means totally forbidden. Now, fruit is not only tree fruits, but it's essentially any produce of the ground. So this would include grains, this would include vegetables, watermelons, melons, gherkins, and the work. Hare ze yochel hafer. Behold, this he is able to annul. Peiros medinazu. So even though in modern Hebrew Medina means a state, generally, a best translation in Mishnaic terminology would be a province. Peiros medinazu, the fruit of this province, alai, are upon me, meaning are forbidden upon me. So we have a solution. Yavi, he will bring, assuming the husband who knows a wife, who can't eat any local fruits, any local produce, Yavi la mi medina acheres. He'll bring to her from another province. What happens if she says, Peiros chenvani ze'alai? What happens if she says, the fruits of this shopkeeper are upon me? There's a supplier, and the supplier brings in produce. And she says, in regards to the supplier, everything the supplier brings in is forbidden upon me. Einu yochel lahafer. He's unable to annul that vow. But if his sustenance was only from this particular supplier, this shopkeeper, and this is where all his produce is coming from, and she says it's forbidden to herself, he can then annul the vow. Divrei Rabbi Yossi. These are the words of Rabbi Yossi. So you'll notice, as I'm reading through this Mishnah, there's enormous amounts of things that cross my mind and bother me, and I'm not quite sure about them. But I use a kind of discipline to do first things first and second things second. And as we've said repeatedly, that the study of Gemara, the way that we approach it strategically, mirrors the way that we think. And we think in three different phases: the input, where the information comes into our head; the output, which is what we do with the information; and that middle stage, which is processing. How do we actually deal with information that we input in order to make a faithful output? Which means when I'm walking down the street and I want to know if I can cross the road or not, I look from side to side. That's visual input. If I see that the street is clear, so then I compare that with all the information I know about crossing streets in my mind, and it comes up with the answer that when there's no cars around and you've checked it, you should cross the street. And therefore the output is I walk my little feet across the street. But that's a very simple illustration. Obviously our thoughts are far more complicated, and we do that input processing output phase in milliseconds the entire time. But it's good to slow it down in order to note how we can analyze all text, and certainly a Mishnah, where we start off with just getting the input, which is getting the language into our heads. And if we start to ask too many questions whilst we're translating, what obviously happens is we sabotage our capacity to go further, because we're so bombarded by difficulties that we lose the flow of the text and we don't find the foundation. It's very important to ask kashas, as we're about to see in our second stage of analysis, but all in the right time. So that's the first thing we do. We read through 4 times, and now we've done an accurate translation. If you ask me, is there anything I understand about the Mishnah right now? Very, very, very little. And the way this works is I'm essentially sharing with you what we call the 353 Mishnah Analysis Technique, which involves the first 3 questions, which are what are the parts, how many and why in this order. And then we'll go into the middle stage, which is a series of well-structured, pointed questions. And we'll conclude with the final stages of output of what is the Chiddush of the Mishnah. And we, at the pre-stage, we're just getting the reading and translation straight before we even get there. So now let's try, see if we can do that. What are the parts of the Mishnah? How is this Mishnah constructed? And see if we can figure out what's going on over here. The Mishnah begins the words, Ve'elu NEDARIM she'umefer, which is a halakhic principle. It's stating that these are the category of NEDARIM that you can annul. And then it goes on, in almost as if there's a colon after the words, Ve'elu NEDARIM she'umefer. These are the categories of NEDARIM that you can be mefer. And the kind of the list is Dvarim Sheish Bohen Inui Nefesh. The list is, or the principle that is the thematic connection between all these things is things that have in them Inui Nefesh, which is some kind of affliction, and we haven't got a clear and crisp definition of that, but we're getting the part straight after the translation. Ve'elu NEDARIM she'umefer, colon, part 1 of the Mishnah, and then there's a stating, which is part 2 of the Mishnah, Dvarim Sheish Bohen Inui Nefesh, which is the principle. And then we have an illustration. So really, you could say this is one big part, or with A, B, and C, or parts 1, 2, and 3. And these are the illustration of Nedarim, which are Inui Nefesh. They are Im Erchatz, Vim Lo Erchatz. If I will wash, if I won't wash. Im Eskashet, Im Lo Eskashet. If I'll put on makeup, if I won't put on makeup. Now, to me, that's, I don't know. It seems to be that the sense of Inui Nefesh is some kind of depriving myself of some type of bodily care. But I'm completely confused as to the double language of if I will wash, if I won't wash. I don't know what that context is. If I will put on makeup, if I won't put on makeup, I would think it should say, I won't put on makeup, I won't wash. That sounds to be an affliction. If I will wash, if I won't wash, seems to be bewildering. So I'm not quite sure, but it's not the time for this, because just now I'm just dividing it up into its constituent parts. So let's call these things parts 1, 2, and 3. There's an introduction, a halachic statement of what kind of Nedarim does the husband have within his power to annul? That's the heading. The list begins with the principle of Dvarim Sheish Bohen Inui Nefesh. It begins with the principle of the list, which is something which has an affliction of the self. And then we list 2 examples: washing, not washing, making up or putting on jewelry, or not doing so. So I'm ambiguous as to whether we need to list those as 3 different parts or 1 single part with A, B, and C. Perhaps we'll say that it's 1 big part with A, B, and C, and this is just giving us the initial introduction. And this, of course, are the words of the Tanna Kamma. Then we turn over the page and we have Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi. Ein elu nidre Inui Nefesh. So this we'll call those first 3 parts A, B, and C, and then we'll call this part 2. Rabbi Yossi is coming to argue in the Tanna Kamma, and he says, no, those are not called nidre Inui Nefesh. Washing, not washing, making up, not making up, that's not elu hey nidre Inui Nefesh. This is what's called Inui Nefesh. And it's almost as if Rabbi Yossi is now doing the same kind of categorization, but with a very different set of examples. And his example is when she says all the fruits, all the produce of the entire world is upon, meaning it's forbidden upon me, that he's able to annul. That's called Inui Nefesh. Paris Medina zu alai, but just this province, he's unable to annul this vow, and he has to honor the vow, and therefore he has to supply her with fruits from another province. Paris can voni zeolai, if she says that all the fruits of this particular storekeeper, produce supply alai, and he can't, but if it's the only place he can get fruit from, produce from, then he can. So it seems to be that the Mishnah fundamentally has 2 major parts: the opinion of the Tanna Kamma, the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Both parts revolve around what are called nidre Inui Nefesh, and it seems to be 2 very divergent views as to what they are. What's interesting in Rabbi Yossi's presentation is he starts off by declaring that what the Tanna Kamma said are not nidre Inui Nefesh. What the Tanna Kamma said are nidre Inui Nefesh are not. These are them. And then he lists one thing which is, one thing which isn't, one thing which isn't, one thing which is. He says, these are what are actually called nidre Inui Nefesh. She forbids all the fruits on the planet upon her, all produce of the planet upon her. And then he says, and this is what's not, just as prophets. And then he says, and this is also not a neder of Inui Nefesh, when she says, this produce supplier, forbidden to me. No, that he can't touch it. But if she says that's the only produce supplier there is, and that's where all the produce comes from, then he can. So he gives actually 2 examples of when you can be made fair, 2 examples when you cannot be made fair. No one asked him for examples of not being made fair. Why is he putting them there? But I'm going ahead of myself, because right now I'm just doing the structure. The structure is 2 parts. Within those 2 parts, we've got subdivisions. We've subdivided the Tanna Kamma into parts A, B, and C, the introductory phase, the principle, and then the 2 examples. That's how we can subdivide Rabbi Yossi into his constituent parts. Rabbi Yossi, ein elu nidre Inui Nefesh, that would be part A. The Elu Nidra Inui Nefesh would be part B. Part C would be Amra Koinim Peres Olam Alai Harize Yachel Lahai Afer. Part D would be Peres Medina Zu Alai Yavilam Medina Aferis. That would be part E. Ken Rani Ze Alai and Yachel Lahafer. That would be part F. There would be part G. In other words, there's these contrasts, but by defining them, numbering, labeling them, we get clarity and we see the parts. And that's the first of the three 353 Mishnah Analysis Technique, which is what are the parts? How many? Why in this order? 2 parts. What are they? They statements of halakhic principles and subsequent examples. And we have according to the Tanakhama, according to Rabbi Yossi. Now I don't know if you guys have this handbook of Mishnah Analysis. Have you got a copy of this? Oh, copy? Hanoi? No. This is a new thing. Oh yes. So in this handbook of Mishnah Analysis, we have this process beautifully laid out, and this is Math 353. Turn to the first page. It's got structure pop. There are 3 parts in structure, 5 parts in power questioning, and 3 parts in paradigm shift. And what we're dealing with now is structure. We said, what are the parts, how many, and why in this order? So we have the parts, we have the Tanakhama, who we present the majority opinion first, then Rabbi Yossi. And we could still ask, Rabbi Yossi gives us 2 examples. One of fruits of the world versus fruits of the province. The second one of a shopkeeper who is not the sole supplier, and a shopkeeper who is the sole supplier. So that's interesting. Why does he need all of those examples, and why did he list them in that order? No convincing answer. If you turn to page 2 of your Mishnah Analysis Technique, we're going to what's called power questioning. Power questioning is the 5 questions you need to ask yourself in Mishnah Analysis, and we'll actually ask the questions and then go through to them one by one. But do you have a copy of the booklet? Have you got one? So let's go through what are the 5 parts of Mishnah Analysis. And the acronym to remember them is DEIPS, DIIPS, which is details, illustration, inference, principle, and source. And I'll define exactly what each of those things are, and then we'll see how that works in the Mishnah. When you look into the Mishnah, the first thing you want to become super aware of is a clear and careful, scrupulous moving through words in the Mishnah, which could be strange, could be extra, and ask yourself why. So details is to go through the Mishnah and find anything extraneous, anything which seems a little bit off kilter, and figure out what it's coming to do. And if we go back to our Mishnah, let's go from the very beginning, and it says, Ve'elu NEDARIM shemeifir. The first thing I'd ask myself is, what do you mean Ve'elu NEDARIM? What is it referring to that it says, and these are the Nedarim? It's obviously joined to some previous statement, and I'm not sure what that is. So I'll ask that as a question. Why do we need the Vav? The Vav seems to be extra. It could have begun the word with Elu Nedarim Shemeifir. And then the answer given to, or the categorization given to this initial statement is Dvarim Sheish Bohen Inui Nefesh. Things that have in them an affliction of the soul. Now, what I may want to do is I may want to start thinking about, I wonder where that comes from, but now is not quite the right time. Right now I'm just concerned about, and I'm doing this analysis in order, what is strange about the language? Are there extra words? Why does the Tana choose the specific words that he chooses? It's in that blue box in front of you. So let's go. Im erchatz, so now I'm going to make an assumption of my analysis. I'm going to say, im erchatz means if I will wash. I mean, I'm not going to say that. That's what it means. Vim lo erchatz means if I won't wash. So I have a problem over here. Inui Nefesh seems to be some kind of deprivation. The word Inui suggests some kind of lacking, holding back. The way you describe fasting on Yom Kippur is v'nisim es nafsho seichem, and it doesn't only include fasting from food. It means you can't put on any creams, you can't eat, drink, you can't wear comfortable clothing in terms of you can't wear leather shoes. So Inui means that. So I understand if Inui is some kind of deprivation, so then it should say, I won't wash. But even the language is bewildering. Rabbi Yossi later on she's going to quote a lashon of neder. Over here, there's no lashon of neder. It doesn't say koinam rechitza alai. It says im erchatim lo erchat. What in the world is going on over here? Firstly, im eskashet im lo eskashet. Now, let's assume that for some bizarre reason, im erchat im lo erchat makes some kind of sense. Beseda. So why do I need im eskashet im lo eskashet? Putting on makeup, not putting on makeup. Well, is that different? Is that more? Is it something I would have thought washing is one category, makeup a different? If I only had washing, I would never be able to derive makeup from it. Well, I would think that, if you ask me, makeup is a higher level of luxury. And if Inui Nefesh includes makeup, surely it's going to include washing. So I don't understand what I don't understand the way it's been phrased. I understand how Rabbi Yossi puts it. Why doesn't the Tanna Kama do the same thing? And I don't understand why you need both the negative and the positive. You should only have the negative. And I don't understand why you need two examples. Now, you're getting this. This is called kind of Mishnah analysis, right? We're like very patient in our process. We're not like trying to get anywhere at this point in time. We're trying to understand. We're trying to stop the rapid race of thought in order to make some deep analysis. Yes?
According to the Tanna Kama, what would be a clear example of something that was not an Inui Nefesh?
Great kasha. In other words, or excellent point. Meaning, Rabbi Yossi goes out of his way, now that you're saying it, to describe the parameters of this is Inui Nefesh, that's not Inui Nefesh. So I get a sense of where the beginnings and the ends are, which I suppose will help me to understand Rabbi Yossi's approach. But you're saying, according to the Tanna Kama, so we know washing seems to be Inui Nefesh, makeup and jewelry seems to be Inui Nefesh.
Also not washing.
Or I say not washing, not putting on makeup, it seems. I don't know exactly what if I will put on makeup, if I will wash, I don't know what that means. I'm assuming that, I don't know. But what is not Inui Nefesh? In other words, would the Tanna Kama argue in Rabbi Yossi? What happens if she said, Koinam peres olam alai? All produce is forbidden to me, which means she'll have to become like a carnivore. Which, truth be told, there are people like that who do well with this neder. Would the Tanna Kama say, oh, no, that's not Inui Nefesh? Or would he say, Kal v'freim, that's Inui Nefesh? Meaning, is the Tanna Kama telling me the things that would think are the least Inui Nefesh, even these are Inui Nefesh? How much more so if she deprives herself from basic foodstuffs, that's of course Inui Nefesh? Or is he saying, no, this is what Inui Nefesh is. Food has got nothing to do with Inui Nefesh. Now, I want to do something really naughty. When we analyze the Mishnah, we do it according to the 5 power questions, which are details, anything strange, extra why. Illustration, creating a vivid picture in our mind's eye of exactly what occurred in the Mishnah. Inference, inferring from what states in the Mishnah to what is not obvious. Principle, figuring out what is the underlying theme, mechanic behind the Mishnah. And source, where does the Mishnah derive its halor from? Is it Doraisa or Dorabanan? If it's Doraisa, is it a pasuk? Is it Halach l'Moshe Misinai? Is it a svara? What is it? Correct? Come join me, Rabbi Segal, on the Soul Safari, a 5-day retreat in the heart of the African bush. Step away from the noise, routine, and distractions of everyday life and make a space to hear the quieter voice within. Through game drives, deep Torah insights, meaningful conversations, and evenings under the stars, we will reconnect with clarity, purpose, and perspective. It's set in a beautiful luxury lodge, and this will be a chance to reset, reflect, and move forward. If you feel ready for something real, come join me. August 2nd to the 9th, 2026, the Soul Safari. That's source. That's why DEIPS, details, illustration, inference, principle, source. I want to skip to source, if I may. Source, the source of Inui Nefesh, where is it? So, it's actually at the end of the Parashat of Nedarim, which is in Bamidbar. And in Bamidbar Lamed, there's 17 psukim, which discuss all the details of Nedarim. And the fourth, last pasuk says the following thing. Listen to this. Kol neder, any neder, v'chol shavua, and any oath, v'chol shavua isar, and any oath of prohibition. Then here are the magic words. La'anois nafesh, to afflict the self. Isha, her husband, yikimeno, her husband can make that neder stay. For Isha yeferenu, and the husband can make that neder go. So we have this la'anois nefesh. The Torah tells me the only power the husband has over his wife's nedarim, if they are la'anois nefesh, they have to be to afflict the soul. So I now know clearly the origin of where this Mishnah is based on. And Rabbi Yossi and the Tanakama are trying to argue, tussle over what does it mean in the pasuk when it says Inui Nefesh la'anois nefesh. So that makes it a little bit easier to me in terms of source. So back to our work in the Mishnah. Turning over to Rabbi Yossi, still looking for anything strange, extra right on Rabbi Yossi. Ein elu nidrei nefesh. Those are not nidrei nefesh. And these are them. I mean, that's to me extraneous. If Rabbi Yossi wants to be argued, I would say simply, Am Rabbi Yossi, Amra Kohen and Peres Alai, Harizi Yochel Afer. Meaning he doesn't have to tell me. The Tanakama already introduced the topic of the Mishnah. And he's just coming to argue. The Tanakama said, these are Idrei Nefesh. Rabbi Yossi said, and these are Idrei Nefesh. And then you'd be able to, the very, very rarely does the competing Tana introduce himself by saying, no, that's not what it is. This is what it is, and I listen. He just starts arguing. Correct? Okay, so that's the problem. Why do we need these two lines? And then we understand why Rabbi Yossi, he uses a real language of neder. He doesn't use a cryptic language that the Tanakama uses. That is strange. That is strange. She makes a neder. Think about this. She makes a neder. All the fruits, produce in this province are forbidden to me. The Mishnah rules, Yavi Lami Midin Acheres. He should bring from her from a different province. Is that a din? Wow, that's a din. That's crazy. If it is. Meaning, his wife makes a neder. She says, any fruit in this province is forbidden to me. Let's say Israel's a small country. All Israeli fruits in Israel, boom. All the fruits of Israel, forbidden to me. Yeah? So Rabbi Yossi says, the husband has no power of that neder. Okay, so you can't deny that. Great. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say, Ein yochel hafer. It doesn't say, the Mishnah should say, Ein yochel hafer. What does it say? Yavi lami medina acheres. You should bring to her from a different place. Isn't that bizarre? We're talking about Nedarim. We're not talking about nice ideas for the Baal to make his wife happy. Well, what do you mean, Yavi Lami Medina Paris?
That's an answer.
Why didn't answer?
It's implying when it's inferring that he can't make it from.
Absolutely. So why do you need to say something else to infer? Just tell me directly. Ein yochel hafer. This yafer, ze ein yochel hafer. Do you understand? That would be comparable. It's because, in other words, when it says the first din that Rabbi Yossi says, Amar Kohen and Peres ha'olam alai, Paris yochel hafer, Peres medina zu alai, it should say, Ein yochel hafer. What do you mean, Yavilom Midina Cheres? Paris can vizi Allah en Yahweh, v'im lo yasa panasa so elami menu. How is it Yahweh? Do you understand? En Yahweh? How is it Yahweh? So it's pretty bewildering. Now, what's nice about doing this process, Chanoch, is that you start to see that the Mishnah becomes problematic on every level. Or I have questions on the Mishnah. So you say to yourself, well, why would I go through this laborious process of discovering the questions when most probably they're either going to be answered directly by the Ran or shortly by the Gemara? So what am I doing here? The answer is that what I'm doing is I'm owning my Torah. It's becoming real to me because there is nothing as irrelevant as an answer to a question which hasn't been asked. If you, Binyamin, don't have questions on this Mishnah, you've got zero interest in it. Zero interest. And when I tell you what it means, zero nafkamin in your life. Zero. It is like water off a duck's back. It's like drinking water when you're not thirsty. And when you drink water and you're not thirsty, it's a bland experience. Whereas when you do have questions, it's like drinking water when you are thirsty. And we all know that what thirst is to water. When you're parched and your throat is dry and you're able to drink this beautiful, clear liquid, the champagne of life, there's no better, more refreshing, deeply fulfilling drink than water. It's perfect, it's simple, it does the job perfectly. There's nothing better. What thirst is to water, questions are to Torah. And if I don't have any questions, so then drinking the Torah is like drinking water when I'm not thirsty. Bland and annoying, and I just have to do it to hydrate myself. But I don't have any joy in that experience. So we're asking questions, and that's good. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So we've done details. We've looked for anything strange or extra in the words of the Mishnah. Let's try and figure out, we'll try illustrating the Mishnah. We want to create a vivid picture of the scene from the Mishnah. We want to know who are the players, how many are there, when did it happen, what did they do, where did it happen, all the details. So let's go back to the Tanakama. Tanakama says, seemingly the oath is, what is it? Inui Nefesh, im erchatz, im lo erchatz. So I don't know what these words mean, so I'm going to hypothesize. This is what I'm going to say, Benj. I'm going to say, if I will wash and if I won't wash means I will not wash. I don't know how that works in the words, but I will not wash. What does it mean, I will not wash? It means, yeah, it's going to, my body's going to get, I will not wash, my body's going to get dirty and foul smelling, and so it sounds pretty afflicting to me. Okay, so what's the case? So let's say, what did she actually say though? This is not a language of neder. So she must have said something like, all washing is forbidden to me. Why the ton of phrases it the way he does, das weiß ich nicht. But let's assume, I could be wrong. Now this is another thing when learning a Mishnah. We work with assumptions because we don't know the information. So what do? We do like we all good scientists. Lahavdil, elef havdalas. When you don't know how something works, you hypothesize it. It's probably working. You make an assumption, and then if your assumption proves correct, then you say, "Great, I was on the ball." If your assumption proves to be incorrect, so then you reject it. You say, "Okay, this is the correct one." So I'm going to make an assumption that could be completely wrong. I'm understanding it means that she says, that all rechitza is forbidden upon me, like a korban. Good. So what was the case? Who are the players? The players, the husband and the wife. When did she say this? Let's say she said it on a Tuesday morning. And when did the husband hear it? He heard it immediately afterwards. And now is a choice. Can you annul it or not? The answer is yes, he can. If she makes some other kind of neder, I don't know what that neder exact will be. It's not Inui Nefesh. We don't have a clear getter from the Tanakama. So then he won't be able to do it. But this one he can do something with. So it happened on Tuesday morning. He had until Shkia to annul this vow. and he either did or did not, but he could have done it. Good? That's an illustration. Let's go and illustrate the case of Rabbi Yossi. Case of Rabbi Yossi says, Tuesday morning, she wakes up in the morning, and I don't know what's possessing her. Let's assume she had a really bad night, and she's just super frustrated. She wants to go on a massive diet, and she figures if she forbids any kind of produce upon herself, it's going to reduce her eating to very little. So she says, all the words of the fruits, all the fruits of the world are forbidden to me. The husband hears that, it's Yom Shamoy, he knows the opportunity to annul it. But if she said, Koinem, Peros, Medina Zualai, if she only limited it to the province, then can he be made for it? No. What can he do? The Mishnah says, has to bring her fruits. Sounds like it's a din. So it means as follows. She says as neder, and then around about, let's say he can't be made for the neder. So around about supper time, she says, oh my gosh, I'm starving. So he says, well, we've got some fantastic bread in the fridge. She goes, can't eat bread. He said, well, we've got some avocados. Can't eat avocados. Well, don't worry, we've got some cucumbers. Can't eat cucumbers. So he says to her, well, what can you eat? She says, steak. He goes, steak and chips. She goes, without the chips. So now what should you do? So I could say, well, if they have not, like Mary Antoinette said, if they don't have bread, let them eat cake. If they don't have fruits, let her eat meat. Instead, the Mishnah says, he has to go now and go on a trip, go buy fruit that's not sourced in this province and bring it back to her. What is that about? If she says, what's a storekeeper? Which I find so strange. The storekeeper he's a local makolet. So if she says, all the fruits in the local makolet are forbidden to me, he can't touch their oath. But if it's the only makolet, then he can. I don't understand. I really don't understand. What's the scenario? So scenarios like this. They live where? They live in Beersheba. Little tiny little town, not the Beersheba today, the Beersheba of yesteryear, where there's nothing there. And there's one store that provides you with fruit. Great. And that store, she says, I'm not eating from that store. Great. Okay. So go to Yerushalayim and get a fruit. If she says, all the fruit of this country are forbidden on me, that's not called Inui Nefesh. If she says, the fruit from this shop are forbidden to me, and it's the only shop in the area, that is Inui Nefesh. What? He can go to another shop elsewhere. Why is that more chomer? Why is it more makil than Paris Medinazu? It makes absolutely no sense. Do you understand my question, Binyamin? No, you don't. I know, you should understand my question. Okay. Let me answer a question. A woman says that all the fruits in this country are forbidden to me. Can he annul that vow? He cannot. All the fruits in this country are forbidden to me. He can't. Why? He can go to another country and get a fruit. Right? Good? What happens if she says, there's one store in the area that they get their fruit from, and she says produce from. She says, I'm not getting any, forbid all that fruit from that store upon me. Can he annul that vow?
Yes.
You'd say no, right? What does Rabbi Yossi say? Yes.
Seems like it should be the opposite.
Right? Should be the opposite. Do you understand the problem now, Binyamin? How would you say in your own words the problem? Let's say, I say that every single piece of Israeli produce is forbidden to me. And on that, Rabbi Yossi says, the husband has no power to annul that vow. It seems like pretty intense. Why? Well, he could go overseas and bring fruit. And then she says, there's one store in the little town they live in, and she says, all the produce from this store is forbidden to me. What would you automatically say? What should the husband do? And what did Rabbi Yossi say instead? He can be made for that neder. He can be made for that neder. So all the stores in the entire country, he can't be made for it. This store, because it's the only one in the little shtot, he can be. Makes no sense. That makes no sense. Rabbi Yossi seems to be saying that Inui Nefesh means when she makes an oath that this is a sense I get, but I'm not sure, hypothesis. Or maybe, what do you think, Hanoch, is Rabbi Yossi's governings for? It sounds something along the lines of, if she makes an oath which is impossible to live with, he can annul it. An oath that you can find a plan, he's got no jurisdiction. No, don't you agree with that? What's an oath? She says, every single bit of produce in the entire planet is forbidden to me, which means it's going to be very difficult for her to survive. She could die. She could die. Because you've got to eat. And there's not always meat available. Most of in an agricultural society, for sure, most of the staple is a produce. It's not meat. She could die. So there's no way out. The husband can move in. But if she says just this country, okay, she's not going to die. You'll go overseas, you'll bring her fruit. Hey?
See, no, you're saying, she said, if he's just, I'm not going to eat from the shop down the road, and he can't annul that. He's not able to annul that because presumably
You can go somewhere else. You can go.
go somewhere else.
She goes somewhere else. But if it's the only shop if it's the only shop around, he can annul it.
No, you just said the province though. The province is a much bigger issue.
2 cases.
Okay.
Province, 1 case. Shop, 2 cases. This is Rabbi Yossi. 4 cases Rabbi Yossi says. 2 he can, 2 he cannot. First case he can. All the fruit in the world forbidden to me. Yes. Fruit of this country, he has no power. Go to another country. Case 1 and 2. Case 3. This shop, forbidden to me. Can't touch it. Go to another shop. But if it's the only shop, then he can. What do you mean? If it's the only shop here, you can go to the shop 1,000 miles away. I mean, it's certainly no harder to get from another shop elsewhere than it is to go overseas to get from a different province. Problem. That's all. Just asking a problem. Just thinking through the Mishnah. Just using me noggin. Okay. Good. So we've done details, illustration, and source, even though we did it out of order. Now let's talk about, is there anything over here we can infer? Is there anything over here we can infer? Which is figuring out something using clues instead of being told that directly. So we can say, oh, this isn't. Is there room for inference over here? What is implied? Where would our logic be different? Well, first of all, if we go back and we look at the beginning of the Mishnah, it says, Ve'elu NEDARIM shemeifir. Ve'elu is always a limitation. These yes, others not. So this is what we struggled with. There is an inference over here waiting to be made, but I'm not sure how to make it. Washing jewelry seems to be in that category. But washing jewelry, yes, something not. Food sounds weird. Food seems to be more intense than jewelry and washing. Putting on a coat in the winter, warm clothing, I don't know. Is that what? Don't know. And also Rabbi Yossi says, no, those are not, these are. So he's also excluding other things, but he at least fleshes out what he's excluding. That's inference. And in the principles, it seems to me there's a machlokes over here. We have to select the relevant properties and formulate a principle based on those properties. What are we going to do? How are we going to do that? What is a principle? I feel too confused by the Mishnah to even know what the principle is.
I would say the seems to with aesthetics, right?
That's the Tanna Kama seems to be referring to, right, aesthetics and comfort, whereas Rabbi Yossi seems to be referring to survival.
Right.
So the question is, what's Inui Nefesh? Is Inui Nefesh, like you're saying, beautifying, hygiene, or is Inui Nefesh living, eating? That's okay, but Tachlis, what we've successfully done is we've done the 353 Mishnah Analysis Technique, and really the only thing we've left to do, is the paradigm shift, which is, what would I have thought? Why would I have thought it? Why did the Tana reject my way of thinking? And this again, I'm not fully. What would I have thought in regards to the ruling of the Mishnah? What would I have thought Inui Nefesh means? So I would have thought my only precedent for Inui Nefesh that I can think of is Yom Kippur. So it's eating, drinking, putting on creams, wearing leather shoes, physical intimacy. So those are the things that are called Inui Nefesh. Doesn't sound, well.
Can I ask a question on Rabbi as well?
Just 1 second. Let's just do the 353. This is a 3. So I would have thought Inui Nefesh means all of those. And it seems to be that making up, and the Tanna Kamma speaks about makeup and food, but not much. What about anointing yourself? What about, maybe that's makeup? What about drinking, eating? That Rabbi Yossi refers to. So it seems to be that this out of the Inui Nefesh includes all the 5 Inuim of Yom Kippur, let's say, and the Tanna Kamma and the Rabbi Yossi differ into that. And why would I have thought that? Because my Torah precedent of Inui is in Yom Kippur. So why did the Tana reject my reasoning to say his? Don't know. Not having an answer to the question doesn't really stop the process. It just actually opens it up. Go for it.
It's pretty obvious that the number and on the definition of Rabbi Segal was saying survival. And the hypothesis that is to do survival.
Why would it be obvious you couldn't have made for the neder for survival?
But I answered that like that.
The fact that Pikuach Nefesh may entitle her to eat and may not give me the right to be made for the neder. There's other ways of her getting rid of the neder. She should go to Chacham and be matir it. This is a specific right between husband and wife. So that, my dear friends, is an application of the 353 Mishnah Analysis Technique. And for me, the Mishnah is now alive. Why is it alive? Because it's a mystery. And when it becomes a mystery, that's when I start to learn. And I have to think. I have to resolve it. Having answers is not helpful. Having questions certainly is.